If your baby cries for hours, you get handed labels: colic, reflux, overtired, or somehow you're doing it wrong. Here's a better model: common crying versus dysregulation versus red flags. I'm going to give you a 60-second triage that tells you which bucket you're in and what to do about it tonight. Colic is a pattern label. It describes the crying. It doesn't tell you the lever. Let's bucket the crying first, and then you'll know what lever to pull. Bucket 1 is common crying. Crying that has reasons, sometimes obvious, sometimes not, and it can be loud because it's designed to recruit you, but baby can calm eventually. Their tone stays flexible, feeding usually works, and if you reduce stimulation, things can gradually organize. Bucket 2, however, is dysregulation, and dysregulation is when the baby's arousal system is stuck high, so comfort inputs don't land. Their body feels rigid, back may arch. Crying escalates when you add input. Feeding and sleep both can fall apart. You try to nurse and they latch, but then they arch and scream. Or you put them down asleep and they jolt awake in only 15 minutes. It's the feeling of everything you try makes it louder. Then there's bucket 3, red flags. Crying plus body signs like fever in a young infant, breathing trouble, dehydration, lethargy, persistent vomiting, poor feeding, or poor weight gain. Those things would be a red flag, and you can talk to your doctor about that. That kind of crying doesn't fit a regulation pattern. It deserves medical evaluation. So what do we know about crying? There's something called the infant crying curve. Across cultures, babies tend to increase crying in the first weeks of life. Peaks around 6 to 8 weeks, and then it gradually decreases. That shows up even in healthy babies with attentive parents. So when crying clusters in the evening or ramps up around that age, it's predictable. Now, I don't love the word common. Common doesn't necessarily mean biologically ideal. It seems to me that there's something about modernity that's pushing our babies' nervous systems to their capacity. But in any case, the key is there is a predictable pattern, and so it means that you don't have to treat every episode like a mystery diagnosis. Let's talk about the biology of dysregulation. One layer deeper than just state. When arousal stays high, the sympathetic nervous system dominates. That shifts blood flow away from digestion. It increases muscle tone and it alters breathing patterns. Feeding requires coordination: suck, swallow, breathe. Sleep requires parasympathetic dominance. Digestion also requires parasympathetic dominance. So when the system is stuck in alert mode, the very systems that parents are trying to fix, feeding and sleep, can be the first to destabilize. That's why you can see feeding that starts and falls apart, arching at the back that looks like reflux, frantic sucking that doesn't settle, waking up 20 minutes into sleep. It's not random, it's just physiology under high arousal. That's why dysregulation looks different from common crying. And here's the developmental piece that most people skip. Newborns don't have strong cortical inhibition yet. The cortex, the part of the brain that helps dampen input, is still organizing. That means sensory gating is immature. Light, sound, handling, internal sensations like gas or fatigue, all of it hits harder. They have a gas pedal, but the brake is still developing. So when a baby escalates instead of settles, it's not personality, it's just an immature nervous system processing more than it can regulate. Reflux and gas are often blamed for this type of crying. And yes, reflux and allergies and gas, they all exist. But they often don't explain predictable, time-locked crying in thriving babies. If the crying clusters in the same window and escalates with stimulation, you're looking at regulation capacity, not a diagnosis to chase. Here is the 60-second triage. Number 1, when? Is it clustered in the same window daily or random all day? Clustered often points to regulation capacity. 2, does less help? When you reduce stimulation, dim the lights, less handling, does the cry gradually organize? If yes, it's common crying. If reducing input doesn't help and stimulation escalates the cry, it's dysregulation. Number 3, between crying episodes, is baby feeding well, gaining weight, alert and responsive when calm? If yes, it points to regulatory stress. If feeding is persistently poor, weight stalls, breathing looks off, behavior changes abruptly, or there's a fever in a young infant, that shifts the category. So, bucket first, and then you'll know what lever to pull. So, what do you do tonight? Step 1, notice if less is more. Dim the lights, talk less, stop switching strategies every 20 seconds. If your baby calms the second you stop trying to fix them, that's state. Step 2, containment. Hold the baby snugly, put them in the carrier, give them fewer degrees of freedom. Step 3, rhythm. Steady walking, bouncing, or swaying. Rhythm is often better than intensity. Step 4, sound. Low, steady shush or white noise. Boring and consistent. Step 5, feed strategically. If feeding calms and coordinates, then great. But if it escalates the crying, stop and go back to the state tools. Colic is often a pattern name. Dysregulation is a mechanism. If you've been trying to fix a label instead of reading state, it's no wonder it felt impossible. The move is stop label chasing and start reading timing, state, and body. That's the triage. That's the lever.